The Boy Who Found Magic, Part 1, Year 1. In a house where the walls were the color of cold oatmeal, Arkan lived in a tiny room tucked under the stairs. His world was made of dust motes and the rhythmic ticking of a clock that seemed to count down to nothing. But one morning, a heavy envelope arrived, sealed with shimmering wax and addressed in ink that pulsed like a heartbeat. As Arkan touched the paper, the dim cupboard filled with a sudden, golden warmth, and he felt a strange spark ignite in his chest. The door to the dull house didn't just open. It rumbled aside as a towering man named Barnaby stepped into the hallway. He was so tall his head brushed the ceiling, and his coat was a patchwork of velvet and stars. Barnaby knelt down, his eyes twinkling like distant galaxies. "You've been living in the shadows, Arkan," Barnaby rumbled softly, holding out a lantern that burned with a steady crimson flame. "But you were born for the light. It's time to go to school." Barnaby led Arkan to a bustling train station, but they didn't stop at the usual gates. They walked toward a solid brick wall between platforms 9 and 10. Arkan felt his heart hammer against his ribs, a drumbeat of terror and hope. "Belonging requires a bit of bravery," Barnaby whispered. Arkan closed his eyes, gripped his trunk, and ran straight at the hard stone. He expected a crash, but instead, the air turned to cool silk and the scent of wood smoke. On the other side, a magnificent scarlet steam engine hissed, breathing out clouds of cinnamon-scented vapor. The platform was a sea of long black robes and pointed hats. Amidst the chaos, a girl named Lyra leaned out of a carriage window, her eyes bright with curiosity. "First year?" she called out, waving a wand that puffed out tiny silver bubbles. Arkan nodded, feeling a sudden, wonderful sense of recognition. He wasn't the only one who didn't fit into the dull world. The train ride was a blur of emerald hills and chocolate frogs that actually hopped. Arkan and Lyra sat together, sharing stories of the strange things they had always felt but never understood. "I once made the glass in a zoo disappear," Arkan confessed, feeling the warmth of the deep red seats. Lyra laughed, showing him how to turn a copper coin into a butterfly. For the first time in 11 years, Arkan didn't feel like a guest in someone else's house. He felt like a traveler returning home. As night fell, the train stopped at the edge of a vast, black lake. A fleet of small wooden boats waited to carry the students across the water. Above them, perched on a jagged cliff, stood the castle. Its hundreds of windows glowed like embers in the dark, and its stone spires reached up to touch the moon. Arkan sat in a boat with Lyra, watching as the castle's reflection shimmered in the ripples, a fortress of gold and mystery. Inside the castle, the walls were alive. Portraits of ancient wizards whispered greetings, and knights in silver armor tilted their visors as the children passed. Arkan paused before a painting of a wizard in a deep red robe who winked at him and pointed toward a set of grand oak doors. The air felt thick with ancient secrets and the hum of hidden power. Arkan adjusted his glasses, his shadow stretching long and bold against the stone floor. The great hall was a wonder beyond imagining. Thousands of candles floated in mid-air, casting a honey-colored glow over 4 long tables crowded with students. Overhead, the ceiling didn't look like stone at all. It was a perfect mirror of the starry night sky. At the front of the room stood a simple wooden stool and a tattered, pointed hat. Arkan felt a shiver of anticipation. This was the moment he would find out where he truly belonged. When Arkan's name was called, he walked to the stool with his head held high. The great hall fell silent. He sat down, and the heavy hat was placed over his head, slipping down past his eyes. "Ah," a small, dry voice whispered in his ear. "I see a heart that is tired of hiding. I see a spirit that is ready to burn bright." Arkan gripped the edges of the stool, his knuckles white. "Better be, brave heart," the hat bellowed to the entire room. The red and gold table erupted in cheers as Arkan joined his new house. Lyra was already there, patting the seat beside her. The table suddenly groaned under the weight of a feast: golden potatoes, roasted meats, and jugs of foaming juice. Arcan looked around at the laughing faces and the dancing shadows of the great hall. The cold oatmeal walls of the cupboard were a world away. He was Arcan, he was a wizard, and he was finally home.